Well,
Hello,
folks.
everyone. Oh, did you want to start?
And I was gonna say, well, folks, we have done it.
Yes, we have finally burned all the books.
What
No,
books?
yeah, that is a good point. What books? We even read books these day and age. Anyway, hello everyone. This is Sakura Diesel here with my good friend.
Bonnie also knows Teapot 7, and welcome to the Season 2 tier list.
Yes. So pretty much just like last time, what we did for season one, we pretty much finished all 8 books that we wanted to read for this season, starting with Edward the Blue Engine all the way to Branchline Engines. And pretty much just like last time, we are now going to start ranking all those 8 books that we have just read and see which books are still very good to this day and which books probably belong in the shithole. With spoiler
No,
alert,
no, 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 not that shit, not the shithole, the Shadow Realm.
or the Shadow Realm, yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna be banishing these books to the Shadow Realm. No.
No.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah. All right. So just like last time, when we did this tier list and everything, we did say that pretty much not only are we going to be ranking the books that we did for this season, but Bonnie and I are also gonna pretty much gonna take a little revisit slash relook on the other 9 books that we have just read for last season and see if any of these books right here are see if we change our mind on any of these books and if we're gonna put them into any different grades and such. And the last time we made them into tier lists.
And
Now,
you'd be surprised. And you'd be surprised. Some of them, some of my opinions have changed on them ever since we did the original tier list back in 2022.
yes. For me personally, none of these books I'm really going to be changing all around that much. All these books pretty much belong in the tier list. I believe they deserve to be in and everything. I don't really have, my opinions on them haven't changed all too much and such. Maybe some stuff, maybe a little stuff here and there, and everything that again, that again, maybe when we get to season 3 and everything, that maybe some of these books will probably move up or move down a tier just a little bit and everything. But as of right now, I still feel pretty strongly on the tier list I gave each of these books on and everything, so I'm good on my end. But Bonnie, what about you? Are there any books in here that pretty much you feel like probably deserve a tier lower or a tier higher?
Well, you'll be surprised. There's about, let's see, there's 3 books in here that my opinions on them have subtly changed as time has gone on. All right, so we're gonna start with Thomas's Christmas Party.
All
Now, if you
right.
guys remember back at the very end of the season 1 tier list, I put this book in B, but as time has gone on, I've decided to put it in C tier because this is a book that because Sakoa said a point in the video. If you guys go back to that video, he said a good point that I thought to myself was actually a pretty good point, and I said to myself, "Is this a book that I will read all over again?" And the answer to that question is no. This is one of the rare books that I rarely revisit, and that's because I think Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree, which is actually down here in this tier list, that's the book that I revisit the most when it comes to Christmas time. Whereas Christmas Party is one of those books that I only read once and then maybe wait like 1 or 2 years to come back to it. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I move it to C. Another reason is that I just feel like the TV episode, while the book does a great job in expanding the story a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like the TV episode is much better.
I think probably what it is with the TV series and everything. The TV series is pretty much more short, pretty much like short and sweet to the point. It pretty much like get you in out of the action right away and everything. That pretty much for like some kids and everything. Pretty much for some kids and everything. It makes it like a little bit easier to watch and everything. It pretty much yeah, it just makes it more easier to watch. Whereas in the book version, because Audrey does expand the story a little bit, I can't imagine some kids maybe like find some of the settings, especially like maybe some illustrations a little boring and everything. This is one of those books where I could definitely imagine where pretty much as a kid you probably might not care about it at all. It's definitely one of those books where you kind of need to grow. You definitely need to slowly grow a more appreciation for it the older you get.
It's a grower, yeah. I will say that it is a grower. And it's just that the TV episode is just short and straight to the point, like you said. And the book version, I will admit, there are some scenes that do drag on a little bit, and it actually makes the story screech the brakes for a
Mm-hmm.
second. Whereas in the TV episode, the story just continues.
Yeah.
There's no like stopping points. Where, for example, in the original story, the book version, I should say, in the book version, there's an extra scene where it's snowing like crazy, and Sir Topham Hatt comes into the shed. That wasn't needed in my opinion. But yeah, I'm comfortable moving it to C because after I asked myself that question, and also because I feel the TV episode is just a tiny bit better.
Alrighty.
So next, we're gonna go to the three railway engines. Now, I know what you guys are saying. You guys have the pitchforks right now. You're gonna burn me with fire. You're such. I know what you're gonna say. You're such an asshole. Why the fuck do you have the three railway engines in D? Well, I'll be honest with you guys. It's just that if you would have asked me if you would have asked me back in 2017 what did I thought of this book, I will tell you that I'll probably put it in F. So yeah, even as a kid, I never liked this book. I never did. The only reason I came back to it is because I always felt that Henry being painted blue was actually pretty cool. It's like, oh, cool, he's being painted blue. But it's just that ever since I did the season one tier list, I just felt D was way too harsh to put it to way too harsh of a tier to put it in. So after much thought, I decided to move it to C as well.
Would you be in more than a Christmas party, or would you be more than a Christmas
Oh no
party, or
no
would
no
you
no
be
no!
Christmas
Christmas
party?
Party. I will read it more because this is another book. This is another book that I rarely revisit. I only revisit it on special occasions, like for example, every time Thomas has an anniversary celebration, I might revisit it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's only more for the nostalgia instead of because I want to read it again. And finally, excuse me. And finally, sorry guys, it's just that I caught a cold
No,
again.
no. It's okay. It's just that Bernie. It's just that Bernie Sanders over here is allergic to Gordon the Big Engine. uh,
We are living in a social society right now. So now Gordon the Big Engine. I know. I know what you guys are coming here for. You're expecting me to burn this book on fire. But after much deliberation, I don't think this book is as bad as we made it out to be.
yeah.
Because while we had a lot of fun burning the book to shreds, thanks to Paint Pots and Queens, I just felt like it was totally unfair to put the book on F just because Paint Pots and Queen, just because of one story.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the reason why I put it in D as well too, because pretty much like, if it wasn't just for Paint Pots and Queens, or pretty much like if Paint Pots and Queens was just slightly more better, then that definitely would have been like a very great book and everything. But even take it to a fact like the Paint Pots and Queens we still ended up getting. Pretty much the other three stories were still very good. Like the other three stories still did like a real great job at least giving Gordon like a really good arc, a really good like redemption arc in a way.
Yes, yes, you're right. While Down the Mind has the alliance issue, I don't know. I just like the first three stories. So you guys remember, I rank them pretty highly. Like I gave Off the Rails a 10, I gave Leaves a 7, and I gave Down the Mind a 9.
Mm-hmm.
So if that doesn't tell you that this book is still pretty good, not counting the last story, which was a total mess, this book isn't that bad as we were making it out to be. So I've been thinking long and hard as to whether to move it to D or a very low C, but I think putting it in D would be the safest spot I can put it because
Hey, Barney, look at this. You almost made the letter E.
yeah, just one more book in S, one book in C, and one book in F, and we have an E. But I don't know. But as I was saying, I don't know. I just feel comfortable putting it in D because Down the Mind does have the alliance issue, and that kind of hurts the story a little bit. So I'm gonna leave it in D for now. But
Alrighty.
as time goes on, I might move it. I might move it to C.
Okie doke. Alrighty then. Well, so pretty much with a little recap of season one with our tier list and everything. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the other 8 new books that we have just reviewed all throughout season two. Now last time I went first in terms of pretty much I went first and pretty much putting the books onto the tier list I felt they deserved to go on and everything. So Barney, would you like to go first, or do you still want me to go first with the with this tier list?
I will go first. Don't worry.
All right, go right ahead. So, all right. So first up for you is Edward the Blue Engine.
So, Edward the Blue Engine. This is my least favorite book of season two, and that's what I'm gonna start by saying.
Dun, dun,
Yep, you
dun.
heard me right. This is my least favorite book of season two. And the main reason is that this book contains some of those stories I've seen so many times on the TV series that I'm just completely burnt out on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably would be happy never to see them again for a while unless I have to review them or something. Don't get me wrong; they're still classics.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be lying if I said that this is one of those books that I will revisit over and over again, because I don't. This is one of those books that I rarely revisit. Cows is a good story. It's nice to see Gordon and Henry getting their karma for
And it's nice to see the cows being turned into burgers later.
and here I thought they were going to the supermarket.
Well, I mean, technically, you're not wrong. They will be going to the supermarket. It'll just never be coming back.
Yeah, yeah. Birdie's Chase, it's all right. It's all right. I prefer the TV episode more. Safe from Scrap, a total classic. I'll tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the grand finale, Old Iron, the highlight of the book, the best story on there.
Agreed.
But hold on. Let me collect my thoughts.
Go ahead, take your time.
Let me put this. Let me get this. Let me get this. Let me put this into short expression. This is my least favorite book from season two because they're just so much better books in this season that this is the only book that I probably will revisit after I'm done reading the other books in season two.
Okay.
But considering how good the stories are in this book, the lowest spot I can put it is in B tier.
All right. So, okay. Well, actually, based on the hint that you don't revisit this book that often, I'm going to assume that you would read Henry the Green Engine more than Edward. Then.
Oh yes,
All right.
definitely. And the new characters this book introduced, for the most part, were awesome. I love Trevor as a character, and Shane. We don't get to see him for a long time afterwards, at
Yeah.
least in the Railway series. But yeah, I'm comfortable putting it in B tier.
Alrighty. Well, as for me, it's going to be a little first disagreement of a sort and everything, because for me, I don't really get much of a burnout when I read Edward the Blue Engine and such. I'm like you. Like, I don't think I would like read a book over and over again that much and such. But every time I do read it and everything, like I always forget how much, pretty much how much fun this book is. Like, excuse me. This is basically another book that definitely deals with slice of life very well and such, and pretty much this book really does utilize Edward as a character a lot, and pretty much like even though like he's not like a main character for like most of the stories, or at least like well, actually, no. I take it back. I take that back. At least there's only at least one story where technically he's not where he's not really most of the main focus, and that's cows. But even then, even with cows and everything, they still pretty. Wilbert actually does do a good job on pretty much just giving Edward a lot of character and such. It pretty much it does show like a different side of Edward that we haven't seen yet from the series up until this point. And pretty much like you also said, like well, once we get to other stories like a Birdie's Chase, and even Save from Scrap, but Save from Scrap and Old Iron are definitely like the two highlights that definitely shows the very strong character strength that Edward has. Being like we said, like a kind, wise old engine and such, that would pretty much do anything to help out anyone just because he wants to. He's not really doing it. He's not really doing this because like because like he wants a favor or anything, or because like he's hoping to gain something in the end. No, pretty much. As we saw with Trevor and everything, and I think we also pretty much touched on this too in the episode, in that like Edward really did not have to help save Trevor if he didn't want to, but he chose to because that's just how much of a nice guy he is. And that was the same thing with James. Like Edward could have just let James, run away for like so long that eventually he was going to crash and such, or at least have another engine chase James down. But pretty much Edward still chases James. Like he still rescues him in the end, even after like James pretty much was being rude to him at the very beginning and everything. Like I said, even though I do agree with Bonnie that I wouldn't read Edward the Blue Engine all that much, it's still a very good story. Like there's still a lot of really good ideas that Wilbur put down, and pretty much all of them are executed just well enough that I'm actually going to put it in A tier. I'm going to put it right between Tank Engine Thomas again and Toby the Tram Engine.
You brought up some good points, and
Mm-hmm.
I respect your opinion, of course, but
Yeah.
it's just that for me, this is one of those books that I think it's because I read it a lot as a kid so many times as well
Yeah. That pretty much
that I'm just like so burnt out on it.
Pretty much. It's another book where pretty much you suffer a burnout, and it's kind of not the good kind of burnout in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I rarely revisit it, unless I rarely revisit it unless it's for something like this that we're doing right now, or I don't know, I'm just kind of bored and I want to read the entire series all over again. But yeah, that's why I put it on B tier on my end, because of the bad kind of burnout, and it's not that bad of it's not that bad of a book. I just said bad for some reason, but whatever. It's not it's not that bad of a book. It's got some great stories, like you said, and those stories are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Could
Alrighty, so up next we have is Four Little Engines. The very
Yep.
first time that we meet the Skarloey engines, and I believe, I believe
Yes,
you're
it's on.
next. Oh,
I started. Remember?
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I go again.
Yeah, because like last time that we did the tier list, we pretty much just went back and forth and everything, because pretty much after you got done with your tier list for three railway engines, I pretty much went next and did my tier list for Thomas
All
the
right.
Tank Engine.
All right. All right.
That's okay.
So Four Little Engines, the first book of the Skarloey Railway, and I'm already putting in an S. It's an S.
Okay, so awareness though.
At the very left.
So, so you would read this, so you would actually read this more than Tank Engine Thomas again.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
You heard that right. For the first book of the Skarloey Railway, Audrey nailed this out of the park completely.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the first story Skarloey remembers does drag a little too long, but I don't know. It just feels like an awesome story because we get to learn about the Skarloey Railway and how Skarloey and Reneas ran the line before Peter, Sam, and Sir Handel came.
Mm-hmm.
Then comes Sir Handel, the best story in the entire book and the funniest one, and a personal favorite of mine. Then we got Peter, Sam, and the Refreshment Lady, another classic that you made me change my mind on it. And Old Faithful, that I almost couldn't finish it because of Johnny Morris's horrendous narration. But it's a story that I just love to revisit because I love the fact that Skarloey I love the fact that Skarloey decided, you know what, screw myself. I'm gonna get the passengers to the station, or I'm gonna blow up in smithereens. And going back to what you said about Edward, Skarloey and Edward kind of shared the same personalities in some way. Like they both could have chosen not to help or do something, but they did it anyway
Mm-hmm.
because that's how much of a good character they are.
Yeah.
If only Hit Era Skarloey was like that.
Just wait till we get to season 9.
I can't wait to get to I can't wait to get to Skarloey the Brave.
Whee!
and I'll be honest, this book is amazing to tell you the truth.
Alrighty.
And I don't, but there's something I don't like about it. Can you guess what it is?
Um, I have two guesses. Does it have to do with Johnny Morse?
Okay, yes, that's one of them. I don't like Johnny Morris's narration,
And I,
and actually, that's the reason I put Edward the Blue Engine on B as well. Because I don't like Johnny Morris's narration for Edward nor for the Four Little Engines. Oh my God, he was bad. He was only there for the money for those two books.
Alright. The other reason I could think of, because I think you also touch on this too, could it also be with Dalby's artwork? Or
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Oh my God, Dolby did not do a good job illustrating the Scarlohi engines. They look like toys, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
They don't look anything like the Tally Flynn Railway counterparts. They look like toys more
Yeah.
than the real life counterparts.
Yeah.
But those are just nitpicks, and I'll be honest, this is one of those books that I would be happy to revisit no matter what.
Alrighty.
So take it away, man. Go ahead and
Well, for
gush
me,
on.
this is
Go
going to be
ahead and gush on
another
the
slight disagreement, just a little bit. And it might be a little surprising coming from me and everything, but in terms of Four Little Engines, while I do actually do enjoy the story, and I do agree that this is a really good introduction story for the Scarlowi engines and everything. Much like with three railway engines, although I'm going to say this right now, it's not going to be in C. I'm going to put this in B, actually. But much, yes. But much like with the three railway engines and everything, the Four Little Engines, it does definitely fall into the category where basically, while it's not bad, and it's definitely like a very good first book to definitely introduce the Scarlowi engines and everything, it's one of those stories where sometimes it is a little hard to come back to when like other better Scarlowi engine stories, or at least Scarlowi railway stories, in this book actually, and pretty much actually in the exact same season and everything, we're gonna get another we're gonna be ranking another Scarlowi railway book real soon and such. So I can't wait.
actually, you changed my mind. I'll go back to my tier list for a second. Yeah, you know what? I think I got a little too excited. I'll put it down in A. I changed my mind.
Would you be more than Toby or
Yes,
Toby
more than
more?
Toby. Yeah, more than Grandpa Toby.
Okay, because yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, the stories themselves are not all that bad. Like all of them really does serve as like good introduction stories, or even just good stories in general about introducing all of the Scarlowi engines except for Renee's because he was a way to be mended and everything. But pretty much besides that point and such, pretty much all the other stories, like you said, Scarlowi remembers and everything. While the story does drag in some place and everything, it really does serve as like a really good introduction story to like to the Scarlowi Railway to begin with, and yeah, while I agree that like in terms of like the entrance parts, Dalby really did fuck up on the entrance part and everything. The whole railway itself, like pretty much at the very least, like pretty much at least Dalby made the whole railway really beautiful in terms of like the drawings and everything, with like the landscapes, the rails, the pretty much the buildings and everything. Like so at the very least, he at least did that justice and such. So I give him a little props for that and everything. And pretty much like the other stories, like like I said, while Sir Handel's not my most favorite story and everything, I still prefer the TV series version of it and everything. There's still lots of funny moments with Sir Handel, and it definitely, like I said, I can definitely see why you and other people really love Sir Handel as a character, because pretty much that introduction story alone really does justice on like I'm pretty much who this engine is and everything. It pretty much makes for a lot of funny moments, especially with Gordon and the way and especially the way that like he tries to get out of like pulling trucks by literally just destroying the rails himself. So I do admit that part is actually really funny.
Yeah, I love that story to death, and that's one of the reasons I keep coming back to this book because of Sir Handel.
Yeah, and pretty much everyone here already knows my pretty much already knows my praises for Peter Salmon, the refreshment lady. So I'm not gonna drag too much into it and everything because you all know at this point. And pretty much like you said with Old Faithful, Old Faithful is also a really good, not only a very great story to learn more about Scarlowi, but even just a great ending overall to Scarlowi, and pretty much seeing him finally being mended. It's pretty much something that I just wanted for a really long time and such. So pretty much like I said, while there are still better Scarlowi Railway stories and everything in this series. For the very first book that does introduce them, it still does a very good job on introducing the characters overall. That, like I said, there's still a couple of stories that I definitely would not mind reading. Time to time again. Like, pretty much if I ever want to read, pretty much if I ever want to revisit the book that started it all. So that's pretty much my reason why I'm comfortable putting it in a B tier.
All right. The reason I moved it to A is because, like you said, there is a much better Scarlowy book that's coming up, and I decided that, you know what, I think it'd be best to move Four Little Engines to A,
Yeah.
because while I do revisit the book, I don't revisit it as much as the next one that we're gonna be reviewing in a few minutes.
Yes. And speaking of next book, up next is Percy the Small Engine, Percy the Green Caterpillar.
Yes, Dolby's final book and Johnny Morris's final book.
Yes. So pretty, it's pretty much for it's pretty much for the final book for two people that pretty much stuck around from the very beginning.
Somewhat because
Because I know Dalby only like stuck around in the beginning of like James the Red Engine, all because pretty much all because Eric pretty much picked him out, picked him out without Wilbur knowing about it at first.
yeah, Edmund Ward actually
Edmund
decided
Ward, yes.
to hire him
Yes.
without Wilbur's knowledge. And by the time Wilbur submitted the illustrations that he had made,
Uh
it
huh.
was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Here, we got to see original Dolby."
Dalby was just like, I mean not Dalby. Wilbur was just like, did what?
Okay, so Percy the Small Engine. Uh, at first, we the book was going well. We gave three straight tens out of the way, which I think that's the first time that has ever happened.
Pretty much by a long shot. Yeah, it did.
Until the last story came.
Yeah.
Percy's Promise definitely ruined what I was gonna put that what was supposed to be an S tier book for me, but
But
it's still going to A.
alrighty. What should I to be more?
Tough question. Let's see.
How about this? Did Percy's Promise ruin it a little? Okay. Well, actually, saw this. How much did Percy's Promise ruin this book for you a little bit? Was it a
It
bad
ruined
type
it
of
in
ruin
ter-
or?
it ruined it in terms of, how can I put this? It ruined it in becoming a perfect book for me. So I will put it in the middle. I will put it in the middle.
Alrighty.
Now let me explain about Percy's Promise. Now you guys maybe now you guys maybe furious at us for ranking Percy's Promise so low. But let me explain.
I mean, to be fair, it's not that low. Could you imagine we would put this in F?
If we put this at F, we definitely be screwed.
uh,
But just saying, because let me explain. The reason why we rank Percy's Promise so low in the book, it's because it didn't do a good job in how can I put this? It wasted so much time on time that could have been used for that could have been used for
okay, I think I see what you're getting. I slightly disagree with you on this, but I think I know what you're saying. You kind of feel like even though this book is about Percy himself, it's kind of falling into the same trap in James, in that we do get introduced to Percy a little bit and everything, but we don't really get to explore too much of his character, or at least.
no. I'm just referring to the last story only.
Okay. Go ahead.
The last story only, Percy's Promise. I'm talking about Percy's Promise here,
Oh, okay,
not
go ahead.
not the book, because the rest of the book I agree is perfect.
Alrighty.
But Percy's Promise, that was. Let me tell you guys a little story.
Okay,
So,
story time.
yeah, all right. So Percy's Promise. When I read the book, when I was 9 years old when I first read it, and I read it and I was like, wait a moment, did Percy went through the flood twice?
Oh
Because
yeah. Yes, I remember this. Yeah.
because in my eyes I thought Percy went through the flood twice because of the illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read it again, let's see.
Pretty much when both Barney and I read it again and talked about it, we realized that no, I mean technically, yes, Percy went through the flood, but at first he only did a little dip, and then pretty much he backed himself away, and at first they were going to see if like there was like a bridge or like somewhere on a line they can cross. And when they found out that like the bridge was like destroyed because of the flood and the rain, they were just like, "All right, well, looks like we're gonna have to go through the water. Percy, you're gonna learn how to swim today."
And another reason I don't like Percy's Promise in the book is because it's so unmemorable compared to the TV episode.
Yeah.
The TV episode cut out a lot of the unnecessary parts, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and made it work. Whereas in the book version, yeah, I barely remember what happened. If you didn't tell me that they mentioned about the bridge, collapsing or something like that, I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't remember that you're talking about the book version. Because while the book version is so forgettable,
Yeah, it really is because like I said, even right now I kind of forgot a little bit about that bridge part.
yeah, the only part I love about that, the only part I remember is the ending and the beginning. The middle half kind of just fades away from memory. As for the rest of the stories, wow, what can I say? Percy and the Signal, classic right there. Duck Take Charge, classic.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Thomas and Bertie Part 2, aka Percy and Harold.
Yeah.
The best story on the book, period. All three are classics for a reason. And if it weren't for Percy's Promise, I would definitely put this book in S tier. Because honestly, it's a perfect book without counting Percy's Promise. But it's like Thomas's Tank Engine, but different.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And actually, yeah, you know what? Originally I was gonna put it in B, but the more I talked about it and everything, I'm like, actually, you know what? Yeah, yeah, because we also mentioned this as well too. Like, outside of like Percy's Promise, which to be honest, like, it's nowhere near as bad. It's nowhere near as bad as like other stories that had like kind of mediocre endings and such. But pretty much like I was originally gonna put it in B because of Percy's Promise. But then once you started mentioning the other three stories and everything, and remembering why we gave them the ratings they deserve and everything to begin with, I was like, you know what? You know what? You're right. I do think A is actually a good spot for this book, and I'm gonna put it a little bit right at the end, right over here and everything, because yeah, like you said, pretty much for this book, much like with Thomas and everything, Percy really does shine a lot as like a character as well too. He is pretty much you have seen throughout like the whole book how much of like a change that like he's gone and everything too. Pretty much growing up and maturing, and it's definitely shown right at the end of like Percy's Promise as well too. Just how much far Percy has come as a character as well too, and yeah, pretty much the other stories that pretty much he had to share and everything with Duck and with Harold and everything. Like I said, some of those stories are classics for a reason. So yeah, for me, you know what? A tier sounds right. I definitely do agree with you there. And now, eight
Okay.
famous engines.
What was supposedly supposed to be Wilbur Audrey's final book.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, I still can't find the evidence. So this is an infamous book that we're probably gonna disagree on in terms of the placement of the ranking.
Yeah.
If this was supposed to be Wilbur's final book, supposedly, for me, had this been the final book, he would have gone on with a bang. All right, so Percy takes the plunge. That story's a classic for a reason. Gordon Goes Foreign, our first original story
Yeah.
for the series, a great story. Doubleheader, Doubleheader, somewhat better than the TV episode
But not by a long shot.
uh,
That's not saying much.
by a long shot, but that's not saying much because that story to me still has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And the Fight Controller's engines, I already talked about how I can relate to that story because what
Mm-hmm.
happened to Thomas happened to me. I deserve what I got for following Thomas's carelessness.
Yeah.
So Infamous Engines, for me, let me see where I can put it. I was originally gonna put it in. I was originally gonna thinking of putting it in S tier, but I went back and I said no. S tier is not a good. And I think after thinking after long and hard after thinking long and hard, I'm gonna put it in A.
Alrighty. Which one would you read more?
Uh, it goes to the front.
To the front, right here.
This is the one. This is a book I revisit a lot and a lot and a lot, and I never get sick of. This is
Alrighty.
one of those books. This is one of those books I revisit most of the time.
Oh,
And for the first book featuring Willie Rushton, well, technically not because he narrated books 9 through 11, but this is his first proper book, so he did an amazing job.
he
And of
did.
course, John T. Kenny.
Oh yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah. Going on those reasons and everything.
Kenny.
Yeah. Cause for me and everything. Like I said, so okay. I'm also gonna say this right off the bat, right too. A Famous Entrance is my least favorite book in terms of season two. But it's definitely not my least favorite book. Period. Not by a long shot and everything.
Yeah, not surprised. Don't worry. This time I'm not surprised because you did tell me this before we even started recording
Yeah.
season 2 a long time ago.
Yeah, because I think I also mentioned this a little bit during one of the later episodes in season two. But yeah, like I said, it's my least favorite book, but it's not all that bad. Pretty much as Bonnie said, the highlights, the first two stories are classics for a reason and everything. And like I said, Gordon goes foreign. It's definitely like the best Gordon story ever in this book so far. And pretty much like I said too, yeah,
And
the
our first original story as well.
pretty much, yeah, and yeah, like you said, mix in with like Willie Rushton's first narrations and everything. He does like a really good job putting like energy and epicence on like most of these stories and such. And pretty much seeing the illustrations by John T. Kenny as well too. Some of them are really gorgeous and nice to look at and everything. Um, but the reason why I'm gonna put this in a tier, which is gonna be a C tier. I'm trying to think. Which one would I read a little? Because honestly, this book and Henry the Green Engine can really go like back to back on like which book I would read the most from time to time. For now I'm gonna put it in between Henry and Christmas Party and such. But pretty much, yeah. The reason why I put it in the C is really when it comes down to it, it's just more has to do with like the other two stories and everything, and pretty much the lackluster feel I get whenever like I read these stories, whenever I read those stories and such. Like I said, it's not that they're bad or anything, but it's just like they're really just lacking in so many parts. Pretty much just like comparing to like the first two stories I read and everything. Like the first two stories pretty much like show off like a lot of fun dynamics and fun like scenes and pretty much conflict for the characters to get into and everything. And then pretty much for the last two stories, like I like with Double Heather, like pretty much at least with Double Heather, there is still like a couple laughs and everything, and pretty good like character dynamic between Toby and James, especially in the ending as well too. That's still a cute little ending in my opinion and such. And the
Yeah,
effect.
and the tweet I made for that
Go
video.
ahead.
Remember the tweet I made that I found on
Oh.
Twitter?
Oh yeah, yes, yes, I do. I actually do remember that.
Steam trams aren't rescue engines. This fact is disputed.
And then James gets canceled. But yeah, and then pretty much with the Fat Controller's engines and everything. Like I said, I do agree with Bonnie, especially in like the very last illustration where we get to see the engines, going and seeing them in the sheds and everything. It does feel like it actually does feel like a good ending to set off like with the Railway series. If again, allegedly, if like Wilbur was supposedly getting ready to have this book be the final book in the Railway series. But even so, whether he did or didn't, like, it does feel like a good ending. But like I also said in that book, the reason, like, there was actually a reason why I was so split on that story, and that was just mostly because of how Thomas's crash was, like, handled and everything as well, too. Like, pretty much, I still stand by that, like, his crash pretty much just came out of nowhere. It just felt, like, so quick and everything that it really just felt pointless.
Not to mention that horrendous illustration. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Which pretty much I still stand by that. I still stand by that. I believe that like the TV series does a much better job adapting that book and everything. But like I said, in my humble opinion. But like I said, even with those like two flaws and everything that I have with this book and everything, this is still not a bad book by a long shot. And honestly, if I ever was to read this book again, it would mostly be for the first two stories. Percy takes a plunge and Gordon goes foreign. Because, like I said, pretty much at the end of the day, like, it's still not that bad of a book. It's still definitely nowhere near as bad as, like, It's definitely nowhere near as like confusing as like Troublesome Engine, or at least dull like James the Red Engine and such. So pretty much that's my thoughts on eight famous engines.
Not surprised to hear that you ranked it at C, because I was actually expecting you to rank it at C.
Yeah, pretty much.
And C is not that bad of a tier to put it on. So
No, no, it's not. Like I said, pretty much, like I said in the beginning, even though Eight Famous Engines is, my least favorite book, I still enjoy it from time to time. There's still definitely, a couple of good things about that book that, that I'm willing to admit are good when they are good.
yes. Anyway,
Alrighty, so
number
here we
one.
go. The famous trilogy book, or at least the famous book of a known trilogy, Duck and the Diesel Engine.
Okay, so let me start by saying that I got a little bit of backstory when we started preparing ourselves for season two. The first time I read it, I came out of the book feeling bored, and that got me terrified. That got me really terrified
Mm-hmm.
because I'll be honest, it's kind of my fault because I listened to Willie Rush's narrations of the book so many times that I just got burnt out completely.
It's pretty much one of those books where, pretty much like we said also in that episode, it pretty much just focuses on the same level of Thomas the Tank Engine, and that like these stories are just are just like I said, are just like classics. Not just classics, but they're pretty much just well known episodes out of the whole Thomas fandom in general.
Yes, and you know what? And you know what tier this book is going? Say it with me. One, two, three.
F.
S.
No, I'm just kidding.
Fuck you. If you were put it in F, I would put. I will leave the meat right now.
uh, okay, so yeah, it says awareness. Would you like to put it?
Hmm.
Okay, well,
Uh,
think about this. Like, would you say that like this book suffers as bad of a burnout more than Thomas the Tank Engine, or not as much?
Not as much as Thomas the Tank Engine, because Thomas the Tank Engine. The problem with Thomas the Tank Engine is that it's overplayed. It's still overplayed to this day. Where and that's the same thing for Duck and the Diesel Engine. Both are overplayed to death.
So we want me to put this
But
in the
but I'm
middle.
not but I'm not but I'm not burnt down on Duck and the Diesel Engine as much as Thomas the Tank Engine. So I would put it in between Tank Engine Thomas again. I would put it in between Thomas Tank Engine again and Thomas the Tank Engine. It's a what can I say about this book? It's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Domeless Engine, a story written as a fuck you to me.
Pretty much,
for
yeah.
saying for saying the Flying Scotsman was the first engine to go 100 miles an hour. And that story does an intelligent job that you can tell what side of the argument Audrey falls on. And it's also very funny to see Gordon get his karma for talking trash about City of Truro.
It is. It really is.
And to be honest, this Dauntless Engine makes it seem like, even though I say the Flying Scotsman was the first to go 100 miles an hour,
Mm-hmm.
it still does a good job in giving the ones that this story is meant to fuck off a good laugh. If that makes any sense. If that makes any sense.
No, I definitely do get what you're coming from with that.
Then we got the famous Pop Goes to Diesel, a story that's so classic, it's so gosh darn hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty Work, a story that sadly is becoming more and more true as
Yeah.
days
Yeah.
have gone on. And with defamation becoming a thing, sadly, I think honestly, Dirty Work might be my favorite story of the book. Now that I said that,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually, I mean, you know what? Much like with Thomas and the Rumors, Dirty Work is definitely another story that definitely gets more better as time goes on because of pretty much just how true, pretty much how true the setting to the story really is.
don't mention Thomas and the Rumors because I'm still very embarrassed.
Barney, you still there? Folks, we're having technical. Folks, it looks like we're having technical difficulties, so it looks like we might have to edit this part out.
Hey, sorry, internet went down.
Oh, that's okay.
So I had to join from the phone. Yeah, yes, now the audio's bad on my end. So I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Where did I left off before I got cut off?
Pretty much we were just talking about Thomas and the Rumors, and you were just like, don't mention that, please.
Oh, yes. Yeah, don't mention that. Don't mention that because that's one of the worst reviews I've ever done, in my opinion. If I could go back in time and correct what I said, I will do it. But I was still pretty young when we did that review. I was like 15, so don't mention that. But anyway, going back to yeah, but as I was saying, yeah, Dirty Work might be my favorite story from this book. Now that I mentioned that, and of course, A Close Shave. You can't
Yeah.
argue with me. That story's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, was my favorite Thomas story.
To be fair, like I also said in that episode review, that story and Pop Goes to Diesel is also my favorite stories out of these two books.
Yeah, same here, same here. Believe it or not, guys, I was considering giving A Close Shave an 11.
Yes,
I, w-
yes, he did. Barney actually did mention this to me off screen and everything.
I was very close to giving that story an 11, but we talked well, but me and Sekoa talked about it, and there's another story coming up in season 3 that no matter what, I think that story might get an 11. So, all right, go ahead, man.
Alrighty.
Go ahead, man. Talk about
So
Duck in the
as for
Diesel
me,
Engine.
Duck in the Diesel Engine and everything, it's definitely another story. It's definitely a book that you know what. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm also gonna give this an S. Why not? Because
Woo! For the first time in forever. Just kidding.
yes, yes. For the first time in forever and everything, we finally found another story that's going to get an S. So pretty much, actually, hold on. I think I would actually read Thomas just a little bit more. But at the same time, like I said, Duck in the Diesel Engine and everything. Like I said in the episode, there was a reason why these stories are classics to begin with. There's a reason why a lot of Thomas fans remember these stories very much, because pretty much, and honestly, I think really it all has to do with just not only with just Duck, but let's be honest, it's mostly for Diesel in general as well too. Because like I said, much like Thomas, there is a reason why Diesel became well, at least in a TV series and everything. There's a reason why Diesel will eventually become like a main antagonist slash a secondary character of sorts, because like I said, there's just a lot of character stuff you can make with Diesel as well. Like just from the introduction alone, and pretty much how Audrey writes him, and how pretty much how Willie Rushton speaks and everything when he narrates his lines and everything. Pretty much Diesel really does make this book what it is. He leads like such a strong, pretty much such a strong impaction to the book, and pretty much he also leaves such like a pretty much he leaves such like a foil, or at least in terms of like a rival, or something like that, to Duck and everything. Like I said, just speaks to lots of volume on just how memorable, like, not only Diesel, but how memorable like his dynamic with Duck was. And like I said, it's a shame that like both in the Railway series and television series that we never really got to see these two interact again. Like, especially after Diesel does it again, it really is a shame, in my opinion, and everything.
I definitely agree. I
Yeah.
definitely agree.
So
Speaking of Diesel, I just don't like what the later seasons did with him because
on the one hand, I can understand and such, cause yeah, pretty much like as most people pointed out, Diesel really is just more becoming like a comical bully instead of just a more like cutting type of villain and everything. Which, like, on the one hand, I can understand like why pretty much why they wanted to do it and everything as well. But at the same time, but at the same time, I definitely do understand that like Diesel's character is sometimes I wouldn't say like actually, I guess you could say random a little bit, because sometimes it's a little hard, especially when we get to the CGI series. It's sometimes a little hard on like on like, you know, what kind of character, like, you know, do they want Diesel to be, and like depending on the episode he's in and such.
yeah. Okay. Oh man, I can't wait till we get to Misty Island Rescue.
Yeah,
I can't wait till we get this. Oh
yeah,
my god! If you guys thought I remember, guys, in the Calling All Legend review that I said that I wanted to get up and punch Thomas in the smoke bots. Well,
yeah. I definitely know which moment he's talking about.
I would fucking punch that blue puffball in the smoke bots in that special. But yes, I was saying, you know, I don't like what the later seasons did with him, especially in the Brenner era. You know,
Yeah,
it's just that, you know, he turned from being this like good villain character into a comical bully, like you said, and it's not funny at all.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
He kind of lost the charm of what made him so unique.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true indeed. And like I said, it's pretty interesting because I think we also talked about this as well too. But like pretty much if Britt and David, or at least one of the two, bothered to at least adapt like Thomas and the Evil Diesel and such in the television series, it definitely would have give like a really more interesting little, or at least like a new perspective on like what they could do with like a Diesel as a character if they ever went with like a redemption arc of sorts with that character.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually the more we talk about Thomas and the Evil Diesel, I'm actually glad they decided not to adapt it. Yeah, let me explain why.
Um,
this is gonna Let me explain
Actually, I
why.
was gonna say, do you want to explain now, or do you want to wait till we get to that book in general and such? Because, like I said, well, actually, I have
I'll
read
give
the
it.
book a little bit, but it's been a while since I've read the book.
I've read it, and I've seen a lot of fans adapting it to trains. Have you seen those trains videos?
I think I have a little bit, yeah. I did also see like Skarloey Railway One also adapted as well for his Wooden Railway series.
Well, the most common thing I've seen is fans doing trains adaptation of it.
Uh huh.
Uh, Most fans have adapted it, and based on the actual book, not with something original in it.
Uh huh.
And I feel that if they would have adapted it, I think while it would be a good thing to see Diesel change for the better, I don't know. I don't know. It just would have made him lose the unique trait that made him unique.
Let's see. I think I can see where you're coming from with and such, because yeah, I think that's probably like the same thing Britt was probably thinking as well too. Like, cause like I'm sure that like probably like they were also thinking about maybe just making Diesel more like still more like a cunning villain in a sort of sense. Like, actually, yeah, the more we're talking about it, like it's kind of a little easy why Wilbur didn't want to bring Diesel back in all the time and everything, because yeah, when you think about it, he really is kind of like a complex character in a sort of sense.
Yeah, and had they adapted that story, we never would have gotten Diesel does it again. The world's strongest engine never would have been created.
Yeah, pretty much.
Possibly. Yeah, I love Diesel, and I love when he's used correctly, not when he's a comical bully. That's not funny.
Hmm.
But they have to bring it back because it's funny, because it's silly, and it's not funny at all.
Yeah, pretty much.
And not to mention that,
And then
and not
pretty
to
much,
mention,
like all engines go. Like he kind. I mean, like he's kind of a bully, but he's sort of a friend too. Like
yeah, it's a friend too, and I don't understand why, honestly.
because like marketing. I don't know.
Yeah, and one thing I should also mention, no offense to Carrie Shale. Carrie Shale is the voice of Gordon Henry in the US version of the CGI series.
Uh huh.
But I don't like the voice he gives to Diesel, starting from season 19. I'll give you an example. He started voicing him, and he's always been the UK voice of Diesel, starting from the CGI series started.
Uh huh.
And here's how he makes him sound. I'll give you an example.
Yeah, because I think it's more like out of my way, flatbed coming through, or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. Hello, ladies. And I'm sitting here going,
Pretty much, yeah. I'm kind of like making him sound like a. Actually, that kind of laugh, like almost gonna sound like a SpongeBob laugh.
it does sound like SpongeBob. You know what? He does kind of sound like SpongeBob in a way. And I was like, I'm sitting here going, that's not how it's supposed to sound like. And that voice gets annoying fast. Wait till we get to Big World, Big Pile of Shit. He sings a diesel version of the theme song, Big World, Big Pile of Shit. And let me tell you, it's possibly one of the most enjoyable pieces of work that piece of garbage series ever put out.
I'm really looking forward to that.
But yeah, but you guys can tell I get so upset. I get so upset, when Diesel gets changed because that's not how he's supposed to be. I know you're supposed to not like him because of what he did to Duck,
Mm-hmm.
but that makes him a unique character.
Yeah, I understand. I definitely do understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and I think Diesel should not be changed. He should stay the way he is. Maybe give him a good side, like maybe he changed his mind on.
Probably just more like he more changes like on its own, but it's more that like it's more mean for his goal and everything. It's not just because like he actually cares or maybe something like that.
Yeah, or maybe do something like with George, for example. George and these are two characters. You can because both are pretty much the same, only with different goals.
Pretty much, yeah. I could definitely see that happening, honestly.
And speaking of George, wait till we get to season 3 because, believe it or not, George is slowly starting to become one of my favorite characters in the show.
Interesting.
So anyway, I talked about these.
Anyway, but yeah, speaking of the Skarloey engine, so yes, we're back to another Skarloey engine book with little old engines.
Little old engine, yes. Do I need to say what tier this book goes into?
S.
Yep, and it goes all the way to the front. This, in my opinion, so far is the quintessential Skarloey Railway book. All the stories in the book are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Trucks is a great story. It's just funny to see that Gordon gave a naughty idea to Sir Handel, and seeing it in action is just so hilarious. And only he gets found out at the end. And that line at the end where the narrator says he thought about think controllers and he thought about Gordon. He wanted to give Gordon a piece of his mind. Plus that accident Peter Sam had. Oh man.
Yeah. No, like I said, the TV series also tries its best to make it look as violent as it can.
And they succeeded. Like wow, the TV series succeeded in such an amazing way and sad way as well.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, I did some research to see because I went back listening to our backstory on the book, and that's actually an original story, believe it or not.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, the reason Wilbur wrote it is because he's slowly starting to put the seeds on Peter Sam getting the diesel ejector. So he pretty much wrote it just to.
Okay. So my original theory was right, and like the reason why Wilbur wrote it was because probably someone from the Tallyflint Railway told him that like hey our engine Edward Thomas is going to get a new funnel, and Wilbur was just like interesting.
He was like give me a few minutes. He goes out. Writes a story and okay, how's this?
And pretty much the Tallyflint Railway was just like, good.
Yeah. So yeah, I always thought this story was based on something that happened to Edward Thomas, but no. Actually, Wilbur, this is actually an original story. Wilbur wrote it because he wanted to plant the seeds of Peter Sam getting the diesel ejector.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. Home and Last is another classic story where we get introduced to another one of my favorite narrow gauge characters, Duncan. He's so unlikable that I just like love him a lot.
We all do.
Can you imagine if he cursed?
I'm a blade blind engine. I speak as I fly. Tunnels should be tunnels and not an asshole. This railway is no good at all. I could insert something better into this asshole.
And once again, let me bring it up again in case anybody hasn't seen the episode when we're talking about Home at Last. As a kid, when Sir Toppenhead says, "I got a surprise for you for the Peter Sam," and Peter Sam's like, "For me, sir? How nice, sir. What is it, sir?" As a kid, when I found the surprise,
yeah. When he found out a surprise was this guy low, he was just like, Barney was just like, "Go away."
I was like, "Oh, really? That's a surprise."
I wanted a pony.
Can you imagine if Peter Sam acted?
I know. Like I said, I know that was something I also brought up too, and then pretty much I also said like pretty much I could imagine Sir Handel being the one saying, "Oh, hi."
Oh, you say it's Did you want me to return? Did you want me to return when they worked?
Whatever. You were only gone for a month, all right? It wasn't that big a deal. Yeah.
That's something Sir Handel would say, honestly.
He would. I could definitely imagine Sir Handel saying that, but deep down, he's probably also pretty much happy that Skarloey is finally home.
Yeah, but Home and Last is a great story introducing us to Duncan, and oh, I forgot. Trucks also introduced us to the new Diesel character, Rusty, which kind of shows that Wilbur had a change of heart when it comes to diesels.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Like I said, that change of heart came real fast too.
Yeah, I think it's also because of the Talifin introduced a new diesel engine in their fleet, and Wilbur took a look and it's like, maybe I can write a good diesel character. Then comes rock and roll, possibly, yeah, I will say it's my favorite story of the book. It's fun to see it's fun to see Duncan rock and rolling along the line, and then he derails, especially in the TV episode. It's also pretty nice to see Rusty kind of defend himself and refuse to do something. That's something that rarely comes from him.
Pretty much,
Usually,
yeah. Like I said, that adds a lot to his character.
you think Rusty would go ahead and rescue Duncan anyway, but no, he actually refused to start
Yeah.
after Duncan said those comments to him. I don't blame him for not giving a shit about Duncan after that.
Pretty much, yeah. Like I said, pretty much like if Duncan wants to pull in passenger trains and only just goods trains, there's probably like a good enough motive for Rusty probably just to leave Duncan there for probably a real long time until like he was forced to like rescue him.
Yeah, pretty much. And then little old twins. In my opinion, a story made just to advertise the real railway, which I don't mind. It's a great thing to see Wilbert actually making you want to visit the Talifin Railway. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's a great story and also pretty funny too. The way
It is, yeah.
the thing controller, the way you think Sir Handel's gonna get away with what he said. But nope.
Oh, Sir Handel, you're sick and everything? Oh, you poor little baby. Here, let's put you right here in the shed, and I'll have the doctors come out and tear you to pieces, okay? Good night.
Sir Handel's feelings were beyond his words. The first time I read that line, I burst out laughing.
Yeah, because like I said, pretty much like I said, Sir Handel really should have saw that coming. He really should have saw that coming.
Yeah, pretty much. And also another thing I should mention is that I told you this already, but for the ones that don't remember, I'll say it again. You can feel Peter Sandler and Sir Handel feeling scared because they were very close to fall. They were very, and I mean very close to be disposed of like Duke. But they were bought from the aluminum company. But after knowing that backstory, you kind of feel bad for them, like their fear being sold. Their fear being sold. You can feel their fear. But I've gone on too much, and I'll say that the Little Old Twins is a great story, and that final illustration with Tally Flynn.
Yeah. Like I said, that honestly, that is like John T. Kenny's best work right there. And pretty much his whole illustration for this book was probably among his best. Pretty much out of his Railway series career and everything.
Yes, I think in this book, it's some of his best work. Period. And I think the best illustration he's ever done is actually in this book.
Yep.
And it's the last illustration of the book, the one with Tally Flynn.
Yeah, I definitely wholeheartedly agree with you right there.
Yeah, definitely. And so I have no shame putting this in S tier. Like, this is a book that I would revisit over and over and over again, no matter what.
And to be fair, same here. Like, this book, honestly, is also really an S right here. Because, pretty much, it's like we said, like, there's not really any bad thing we could say about this book at all. Like we said, like, pretty much, like, even though we didn't have that much to say, like, on the stories, because like we said, like, when you get down to it, they are very simple. They're still very good. Like, Wilbur really did manage to, like, make a couple of these simple stories, like, really good. And pretty much, honestly, like, honestly, it was a mix of, like, his writing and the beautiful scenery that pretty much John T. Kenny made that really made this book really stand out the most, really making this, like, honestly, one of the best Scarlowi Railway series books we've ever read so far up to this date and everything. And pretty much like Bonnie said, like, Trucks is a classic with that crash. Home and Last and Rock and Roll are both good stories as well too, with Duncan and Rusty. And like I said, with the Little Old Twins, like, when you started, mentioning that, like, the story actually does feel more like an advertisement for the Tally Flynn Railway and everything. But like you also said as well too, the story is still really good. Like, it really does feel like a really good proper ending. And honestly, I still stand by that. Like, the ending of this book really feels more like a happy ending for both Peter Sam and Scarlowi as well too. More so for Peter Sam, considering everything, like, pretty much pretty much everything he's gone through with like in the beginning with trucks and such. But yeah, I don't have too much to say on this book and everything because, like I said, this is a really classic book for a reason, and it's definitely one of my favorite Scarlori Railway series books to this date so far.
Yeah, same here.
So up next, we had a book that originally you were also very afraid of what kind of grade this book was going to get, but surprisingly, as we both started talking about it and everything, this book actually kind of surprised us with pretty much how good it actually is.
Yes,
Up next, we
definitely.
got Twin Engines.
The twin engines. All right. So let's get this fact out of the way. This is possibly the most stressful book in the entire series because the way these twins stay in the island and then they fuck themselves up, and then you're sitting there feeling you're sitting there and you feel, oh shit, are they gonna stay? Are they both gonna stay, or is just one gonna send away? Oh god, I can't feel I can't feel the stress. And then you see them, and then I'll explain more later. But
Go ahead.
the fact that Sir Topham Hatt went to the fact that Sir Topham Hatt was away in the mainland buying Douglas, it's just very clever. And yeah, so let's start. Hello twins. Hello twins. A very short story, but it does a really great job at introducing us to Donald and Douglas. It also, introduces us to the conflict in which, Sir Topham Hatt has to decide if both are to stay or one's gonna get sent back. The next story, which I originally was gonna give a very harsh rating because I felt that the twins' plan to switch tenders was very stupid,
Yeah.
and to be honest, it still kind of is. But but the story is just good. We get to know Donald and Douglas's characters, and we know that they're two characters that they won't take shit from others.
Pretty much, yeah.
Gordon and Henry specifically, and the way that Douglas was found out, I thought was very clever and hilarious.
It was. It definitely was.
Break Van. This story is also good. It's not good in the TV episode because in the TV episode, without having the missing coach to serve as an introductory to the twins, you just kind of feel like, here's Donald and Douglas, accept them.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot, like Breakman is also a classic in the book version.
Mm-hmm.
Though I find it kind of hilarious, like the stupid that signalman only gave a shit about the signal bots instead of for his life, but it's the other story.
Well, I mean, don't forget, there's also there's also the place where a barber pretty much only cares about his shop and the customer's stay, and rather than the fact that having his customers actually run for their lives, there's a case of an engine was to plow them. And this is also the same place where we're pretty much a cranky old lady pretty much cares more about her breakfast than her goddamn house.
Pretty much, yeah. It's so hilarious,
Yeah.
dude, you could have died. Be grateful that you're still fucking alive, asshole.
I don't care. I have to go to Denny's now. Do you have any idea how much money I have now?
But yeah. At the end of Breakman, you're kind of left wondering. You're sitting there wondering what's gonna happen to them now,
Mm-hmm.
man. After going through that, after fucking themselves up, and then they're still trying to make up for it,
Mm-hmm.
and they still get in trouble for trying. You're left there feeling very scared. You're like, oh god, what's gonna happen to them? And then the deputation comes, which is possibly the most brilliant story ever written. One of the brilliant stories ever written, I should say. The engines come up with a plan to, well, I would say, kind of like a strike in a sort of way.
Well,
To
not really much a strike per se, because I think what it is just more that they want to tell the fact control that hey, you need to put this right, but they're kind of a little scared shitless and everything because they also know the fact control also doesn't get pretty much also doesn't take shit from anyone either.
Pretty much. So the engines come up with a plan to help Donald Douglas stay. And so Percy goes to consult with Edward, and Edward tells him that they need to do a deputation. However, everyone's scared shitless, and for some reason, Edward doesn't bother to tell them, even though he's in the shed.
Yeah, he's literally right there. He's right in the shed.
And I hate that illustration. That illustration makes me
Yeah.
so mad. but everyone's so scared shitless to tell them, and Gordon being the coward that he is, He basically is like, "Oh, why don't you do it, Percy? You can do it."
Yeah,
So Percy forcefully has to tell the Fat Controller about it, and the reason the Fat Controller was away is because he was in the mainland buying Douglas.
yep.
So that makes sense as to why.
Pretty much it makes sense on like why the Fat Controller wasn't pretty much at the railway at the time, like the engines were having their meeting and such.
Exactly. And then then he comes back, and Percy tells him about the deputation, and then the Fat Controller is like, okay, or maybe in the shed, and then comes the ending where you're sitting there thinking, oh man, please let them stay, and then the story doesn't even reveal it at first.
No. Well, actually, yeah. It's funny that you brought it up because I don't think I don't remember per se if we did brought this up in a TV series or at least or pretty much I don't know if we brought this up in our own episode on this, but yeah, the TV series is the one that actually does kind of spoil it a little bit. Yeah, the twins are here to stay now. We're pretty much in a book version. Like they don't really say it, but definitely the way that Wilbur pretty much wrote that scene in a way the Fat Controller and the engines were pretty much were pretty much how the engines were reacting to what the Fat Controller was saying. You still pretty much got a good idea on like what happened to the twins pretty much right after that story.
Pretty much, and the way the book is reveals, like it slowly reveals us. Like it starts with, "I hear your work in the snow was good," and then, "What color paint would you like?" And then you're sitting there going, "Oh, oh," and then the next line, "Very very well, but your names will be painted on you. We'll have no more mistakes." And then you're sitting there, "No, are they gonna stay?" And then it means, but the rest of his speech was drowned in a delighted chorus of cheers and whistles. And that's
Pretty much, you know what? It's also a little clever on Wilbur's part that pretty much literally right at the very next story in the very next book, like you see the twins actually, helping out on the railway and such.
yes, but they're still not painted blue for some reason. But not gonna complain.
Yeah.
We could make an excuse that this takes place during, let's say, January.
Pretty much, yeah, or pretty much maybe that or pretty much like maybe the Fat Controller showed them the paint colors and everything, but then they had to wait till maybe got a little warmer out and Donald Douglas brought on the way to get painted or something, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm not gonna complain. But yeah, I think the Deputation is probably the most brilliant story ever written. One of the most brilliant stories ever written by Wilbur.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I do agree with you right there.
Yeah. So now, where am I gonna put the twin engines? That's a good question.
Well, like I said, like I always tell you, this is a book you wouldn't mind revisiting or rereading from time to time, and pretty much if so, pretty much how much would you want to reread this book if given a chance?
This is a book I come back to a lot. I come back to this book quite a lot. I'm gonna put it in A.
Alrighty. Where in A would you like to put it?
In between 8 Famous Engines and 4 Little Engines.
Alrighty.
That's where I would put it. And yeah, this is a book I come back to a lot. And it's mostly as well because of Willie Rush's narrations.
Alrighty. Honestly, I'm in the same boat with you. I'm also gonna put it in A. I'm gonna put it in front of Tank Engine Thomas again for now. But that might change a little later. But for now, I definitely do agree with you a lot that this book definitely deserves an A because, like I said, I was also ready to at least give this book at least a B. But then once I started reading it again and analyzing more on both the twins and everything and all the trials they had to go through, I was like, you know what? No, this story, much like with Thomas Tank Engine, this story is really well structured and such. Like I said, Wilbur really did do a good job on really introducing these twin characters and really making you invest in them, everything. And yeah, like I said, while I can see where some people are coming from with the missing coach, and yeah, the plan is stupid when you get down to it and everything. Just the way that plan was executed, and like I said, even with that ending as well too, when the Fat Controller finds out, and especially with that illustration again, Wilbur really mastered his cliffhanging abilities really well because all these endings you see, like we also mentioned in the episode, just makes you want to come back for more. It makes you want to keep on reading until the very end. And honestly, honestly, that's a sign of like a really good story and good writing right there.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, it pretty much covered all the details I wanted to cover, so I don't really have too much to add on the story. So, alrighty, well, here we go. The very last book of season 2, Branchline Engines. Another book that
And
both you and I were also scared of because of one certain story in this book.
oh yes, and I'm gonna let's get this out of the way. I might sound a bit biased, but this is my personal favorite Railway series book because this was the book I read so many times as a kid. Like
Mm-hmm.
I possibly overplayed it to death because I love this book so much, and I still do to this day. And,
But,
but yes,
but,
it's going into
D. No, I'm just kidding.
it's going into F. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold
No,
up.
no, 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 no. You said F, so it's going to F.
No.
Actually, it's way more worse than
No.
changing the diesel.
It's going into fucking S, and it goes to the front.
Alrighty.
I said S.
Oh, S. Okay. It's S. Alrighty. So go ahead, explain. Why is this an S?
Now I've seen so many. Now let me start by saying this. I've seen a lot of people say that this book is not bad, but it's their least favorite for them, and I don't blame them. But to me, at least, this book holds so much of a special place in my heart that I come back to it a lot, and I mean a lot. This is the book I revisit the most of Wilbur's tenure. When you have stories like Thomas Comes to Breakfast, a classic for a reason that I also revisit the episode like a lot. Then we got Daisy, and I prefer the book version because I fucking love Willie Rushton's Daisy voice.
Yeah, yeah, same here. Like I said, I pretty much also love the illustration that John T. Kenny does with her expressions as well.
Yes, my favorite is the illustration where she's refusing to pull the
Yeah, pretty much the milk van. Pretty much just like standing there, just being like, "What you gonna do now? Try and move me."
Percy's looking at her like this bitch.
Yeah. Pretty much, Percy's just like, "I never wanted to murder someone so bad in my life until right now."
And actually, I love Daisy a lot, the story, because at the end of the story, you're just left with this sour taste in your mouth, like, oh my god, I hope this lazy ass Diesel leaves the island soon.
Pretty much, yeah.
But then comes Bullseye, and Bullseye starts with Daisy criticizing Toby's cow catchers,
Mm-hmm.
and you sympathize with Toby because the previous story left you with a sour taste in your mouth, and you're still and you're sympathizing with Toby because Daisy's so unlikable at the start of the story. But as the story goes on, and you know, and when she tests out about tooting and a horse stops, and that gives her the confidence, quote unquote, to shoot a bull when the policeman tells her about it. Then when she meets Champion later on, she tries. She definitely tries, but she doesn't succeed. And later on, you know, Champion ends up on top, and then she goes back, and then Toby comes back and laughs at her ass for failing, and then he basically shows her how it's done. Then at the end of the story, Percy kind of Toby and Percy kind of make fun of her, even though it's not mentioned. Because in the book said they give her pee looks, which make her very angry.
Mm-hmm.
And then some boys in the platform make fun of her as well. And then at the end of the story, you know, Daisy's so infuriated by what happened that you're sitting there going, you know what? Even though she's unlikable, she could still have a change of heart.
She could, but sadly, that went all to waste when we got to Percy's predicament.
Yeah, a very predictable story. And you may be asking, why the fuck is Branchline Engines an S when you have Percy's predicament that's so predictable and meh? Well, the reason I put it in S is because I can't deny that this book has a special place in my heart, and I did enjoy Percy's predicament back then, because I didn't think too much about, you know, the too hard about the story because I was a kid back then, so
Yeah.
you know. But I will admit the story is predictable. The crash is cool, I will admit. Especially I love the backstory that a railway engineer wrote to Wilbur. It's like, there's no way in hell this happened.
And
And
then
so
Wilbur pretty much sent him a photo and be like, "You believe me now?"
look, and again, looking at that picture of the real life inspiration, I'm sitting there going, if that happened in real life, that it must have been terrifying.
I can imagine. Like I said, like pretty much as we all said in that episode, you don't fuck with physics.
Exactly, exactly. If there's a one criticism I have of the story, aside from being predictable, is that Daisy never got the proper redemption arc she deserved. Because I feel like Wilbur wrote the story about Thomas, Daisy, and Toby. Well,
Mm-hmm.
technically, Bullseye wasn't about Toby; it was mostly a Daisy story. But I just felt like he was missing because he felt like he wrote a story on he wrote a focus story on all the characters except Percy. So he
Mm-hmm.
decided to write one. So he decided to go ahead and write one,
Yeah.
and he never took the time to write a proper redemption arc for Daisy. And to be honest, this kind of falls into the trap of Paint Pots and Queens. Whereas in Paint Pots and Queens, that story was a mess because it was mostly because of the alliance and also because Wilbur kind of
Just pretty
for
yeah, pretty much Wilbur just kind of like giving Gordon his cultures back and just being like, "Yep, here you go. You're kind of redeemed now."
which kind of destroyed the story completely.
Yeah.
Here, on the other hand, it's not that it destroys the story. It's just that I just wish Daisy would have gotten a better redemption arc.
Yeah, because I mean, like at least unlike with Paint Pots and Queens, there is a little bit of a redemption, a little, but it's not much. It's definitely not. It's definitely not as much as probably Wilbur could have written it.
Yes, exactly. That's also another criticism I have with the story. And a side note as well, I love the final illustration of Percy's predicament where I
Yeah,
just find it hilarious that comes back from the works and now Percy's the one to go away.
pretty much.
And Daisy's kind of looking at him like, how do you like that now, bitch?
Yeah. How do you like that now? Now I'm gonna steal your chucks.
One more thing. One more thing.
Toby's just like, oh, Percy, you got into another predicament. What a mess. And then pretty much cue the end credits as you see in a lot of family sitcoms.
What about Thomas? Because Thomas is kind of
Thomas is just like, there, Percy. At least it's good to know that I'm not the only dumbass here.
one more thing as well. This is I mentioned this to death, but I'll mention it again.
Mm-hmm.
I just find it hilarious that the whole reason Thomas comes to breakfast even exists is because Wilbur did not like Thomas's running board. He wanted it flattened. So he wrote the entire story just to make Thomas crash, so he could get sent to the works to have his running board flattened.
Was I still stand by my theory that the cleaner was actually Wilbur Andre in disguise.
Yeah, and I agree with it. So yeah, guys, that's why I put it. That's why I put Branch of Light Engines in S tier, even though I still think Percy's Predicament is the weakest story in the book.
All right. Well, for me, Branchlight Engines for me, I definitely do. I definitely do get what you're getting at with this book, and to be honest, I definitely really do greatly respect. I definitely do greatly respect your decision on putting it in S and everything. Cause honestly, sometimes I feel the same way when it comes to my childhood shows and books that pretty much I grew up with a lot of as a kid and everything.
Oh,
For me,
and one more thing, I should mention
ahead.
this. I forgot to mention this. Go back to my tier list for a second.
Sure.
Sorry to cut you off. By the
Go
way,
ahead.
is that this was one of the rare occasions that I read the stories first before seeing the episode. If that makes any sense.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So pretty much just like the first book where pretty much you've seen like pretty much all 4 episodes before seeing them in the TV series version.
That only applies for one story, I should say,
Oh, okay.
which was Bullseyes.
What's that? I think that was what?
Bullseyes.
Yeah, okay, Bullseyes. Yeah. It makes sense because Bullseyes is one of the pretty much unfortunate episodes that only got one home media release and never again.
Which was Thomas Meets the Queen, and I'm sad that never got a DVD release because
Yeah,
that's a great episode on its own,
it is.
and it's also one of the reasons why Train Stops Play, why I never got to see Train Stops Play until years later.
Mm-hmm. And that was also the same reason why we never got to saw Mind That Bike. But who the fuck cares about that episode?
Yeah, who the fuck cares about that episode? That episode sucks, honestly. Nah, just kidding.
Yeah. Just wait. You know what? You know what? I'm really curious on like how we're gonna feel on the Railway Series version of that story when we get to it.
I've read it, and I'll be honest. I think Britt David did a much better job in adapting it.
Interesting.
But that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
But going back to Bullseyes, yeah, this was one of the rare occasions where I read the story first before seeing the episode.
Hmm.
Because it wasn't until I discovered RSGGC A MA.
Pretty much RSGCMA, and then whatever random number he decided to put for that day.
It wasn't until I discovered that channel that I finally got to see Bullseyes, the TV episode. And I'll be honest, I much prefer I much prefer the book version because
Mm-hmm.
when you take Bullseyes out and then you just cut straight to Percy's predicament, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work because when the narrator says she was afraid of bulls and cows, it makes zero sense because since when was she afraid of cows and bulls is never mentioned, and without Bullseyes, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with you right there.
But yeah, that's also. Let me see if I don't have anything else to mention.
Alrighty. Well, anyway, for me, for Branchline Engines, this is still a good book. I definitely do agree with you. It definitely is a solid story, much more better than like I get. Pretty much much like with Eight Famous Engines, it's definitely a lot more better than I given it credit for and everything. I definitely would not put it in S. Like, I definitely want to say it's not my most favorite book out of the whole series and everything.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Don't worry.
But for definitely like with the stories and everything that like we do have, pretty much I agree with you. All of them are still classics. That, you know what, I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna at least put it in B and put it like just in front of Four Little Engines and everything. Cause
Okay, this is a total surprise for me. But go ahead.
yeah. Because like I said, like, you know, all these stories are so classic. Like I said, Thomas Comes to Brevis. Like you. This is one of those episodes where like I watched it a lot as a kid, and pretty much it's another one where like, you know, you read the book and everything, and it's very easy to see like. Pretty much like with like, you know, Thomas Goes Fishing, it's pretty much easy to see why this story still remains a beloved classic to this day and everything. It's just, like I said, just so simple. The crash itself is very memorable. It's very easy to see why this story gets adapted a lot, not in terms of just TV series, but even like in books and probably even fan fictions as well too. And then pretty much like you said too, yeah, like once we started getting to Daisy and everything, pretty much you thought that Daisy was probably going to be like Diesel, and that like, you know, she's just pretty much a little arrogant self that only does work that like only she wants to do and everything. But as Bonnie mentioned, that was one of the reasons why I changed my mind a little bit about Bullseyes. Like, as soon as he mentioned like that like, yeah, when you get down to it, like even though like, you know, Daisy's main goal was to be a show off to Toby and everything, she still at least tries. She actually does try to chase Champion away, and even though she did fail and such too. Pretty much Bullseye really does like set up as like, you know, a perfect little good, you know, redemption arc that Daisy could have had and everything, but again, sadly with Percy's predicament and everything, it just kind of went to waste, and that's one of the reasons why I'm putting it in a B, mostly because of like, yeah, the little wasted potential that that Wilbur could have put for Daisy and everything for her little redemption arc and such. But pretty much at the same time and everything, all these stories are still classics that, you know what, I definitely do see why. I definitely do see why Bonnie holds this book in such high regard. Because, like I said, all these episodes are classics. They're great. Tons of funny moments as well too. So yeah, I am very comfortable in putting this in B tier.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So the thing that shocked me the most was you putting in B. I thought it was going to be an A tier for you.
Nah. I mean, I was thinking back and forth between A and B. Like I said, the main reason why I'm putting it in B is mostly just because, like, mostly both on, like, Daisy and mostly just on, like, Percy's predicament and everything. And, like, pretty much how kind of, like, yeah, like I said, kind of had, like, waste potentials on, like, giving Daisy, like, a proper redemption. But at the same time, like, you know, this book is still very good. I definitely would not mind reading this book again from time to time and such. So it is definitely a good book, in my opinion.
And it's my personal favorite Railway Series book in terms of Wilbur's tenure.
Yes. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's our tier list for at least season 2. So, taking a look at our updated tier list, at least returns to view. Pretty much like you're pretty much tied on a lot of stuff. Like, you're pretty much tied for like books that have like S tier and A tier. You're tied for books that have B, C, and F. And as of right now, you still only have one book that's in D tier as well. So, pretty much looking at this list right now. I would definitely say, for now, you definitely have a lot more so far you definitely have a lot more good books and such than the meh, which, like I said, if this doesn't tell you how much of a massive improvement season 2 was over season 1, then pretty much nothing else will prove it.
Yes. Speaking of which, let me take out my calculator for a second.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's start with your rating first for season two. So rank. So
So I do know that at least for Edward the Blue Engine, I believe originally we gave it a B. Or at least for me, at least for me, we got close to like a B or a C or something like that.
yes, I think we gave it a. Oh my. Oh wait a moment. Never mind. Yeah, because I still haven't completed the slides.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Okay. How about this? We could just definitely say that like in terms for season 2, if we definitely did had to give a grade for like the season overall, just basically taking a look at just basically take a look at your tier list and everything and where you put them. I would definitely say for the most part, I think season 2 for you should definitely deserve at least an A, or at least somewhere between like a B plus or an A minus.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say that. All right.
Yeah.
Well, looking at my tier list, I will probably say that looking at my tier list, I will say that it's probably an A for me.
Alrighty. And
Season
yeah,
two for me.
looking at my tier list real quick. Pretty much the only really book that had like a low grade was just like Eight Famous Engines, which was C. Pretty much all the other books, I either gave like somewhere between a B, A, and S. So, for me, so definitely for me, I can say with great confidence that, pretty much, I think season 2 for me should deserve at least a B plus for me.
Okay, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Because like I said, season 2 was definitely a massive improvement over season 1. There was not one book in this season where we pretty much like torn to shreds. Like pretty much all these books, pretty much all these books, even with the books that had like a couple dust stories here and there, pretty much all these books we had nothing. We had nothing but like a couple praises to give to them and such.
So final thoughts. What do you think? What was your experience with season two compared to season one?
Honestly, season 2 was definitely a lot more fun than season 1. Like I said, I think it's mostly because with season 1, we pretty much pretty much you and me with season 1, pretty much almost all those stories we're pretty much already like word from the TV series and everything that like we pretty much kind of like pretty much it was like a mix up between like A, we were like burned out, and B, because we were looking into these stories more of like a critical point of view and everything, it really did kind of sour some of the books a little bit more than we thought, more than we thought of and everything. But then definitely when we got to season 2, and we slowly started to see, not only how some of these stories were being adapted and everything, but also with like how pretty much, but also with like the original stories we had and everything. Season 2 was definitely a lot more of a fun ride. It was definitely a lot of fun. Pretty much reading these books and seeing the improvements that Wilbur Audrey was slowly gaining as he wrote more and more of these books as time went on and everything.
And it's gonna get better.
It is definitely going to get better. It's going to get better from here.
Oh yes. As for me, season two, I would say season two. I had more fun filming season two than I did with season one, except for the last episode of season one. Now that was I had the most fun filming that episode. But I'll be honest, season two, I enjoyed myself filming season two.
Same here, honestly.
It was possibly one of the best filming experiences we've ever had, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And I hope everyone agrees that I hope everyone has a fun ride watching season two.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. So, all right. So before we end this video, we just want to give out a couple announcements. So, you wanna start off, or should I start?
Okay, well, I will definitely at least start off with this. So, we have heard you guys' call and everything, and yes, finally, we are going to start. Well, not yet, not yet. I shouldn't say
Not
we're going to
yet.
start right away, but soon, we are finally going to go back and start reviewing every episode of Season 9 of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. We've heard you guys' call, and we figured that, these 2 seasons of the Railway series should have been enough that like basically both Bonnie and I are ready to take another look at the TV series once again.
Yes. So the podcast. So you guys may be asking yourself, what's gonna happen to the podcast? Well, we talked about it, and we decided to put the podcast on hold for about 1 year while we work on season 9. But there is another
But
project. There's another secret project we have in the works. That once season 2 of the Really Useful podcast, is completed, we're gonna go back and finish our secret project, which is gonna be which hopefully won't take too long to complete because this secret project.
Pretty much the secret project is going to be mostly short. We're not going to reveal what it is. It's pretty much just a secret. But pretty much you guys might but pretty much you guys are free to take a guess on pretty much what this other project is going to be before we start doing season 9.
So well, guys, that was season 2 of the Really Useful Podcast. We're done.
We're done, and yeah, like I said, this has been real fun. But honestly, I think it's for the best that we take a. I think it's for the best that we take a nice little vacation from this podcast. That way, by the time we get back to the third season, where we finish off the remaining Reverend Audrey books and everything, that pretty much we'll be going into them with a brand new, fresh mind and everything.
Pretty much, I definitely need a break before we get into the great books of the series.
Yes, same here.
So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching season 2 of the Really Useful Podcast. If you guys enjoyed if you guys enjoyed season 2, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you guys want to see more episodes, I shouldn't say more episodes because we're getting on hiatus. But if you guys want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button as well. Also, don't forget to check out our separate channels, Old Teapot 7 for me and Sakota Diesel for Sakoa. Both channels will be in the description below. And I'm gonna say this right now.
Go ahead.
We don't know when exactly we're gonna complete our secret project, so we might be inactive for quite a while.
Yeah, but but to be honest, we are very grateful that you guys are at least patient and everything. For pretty much waiting for the next projects to come out and everything.
Pretty much. So anyway, guys, this has been Bonnie with
Sakura the Diesel.
saying thank you for watching, and we'll be seeing you folks in the next video. So take care, everybody. We'll see you guys real soon.
Bye bye.